Leadership's a huge subject, and well, actually it's not a subject, is it really? It's a discipline for a lifetime. We don't have a lifetime. We now have 43 odd minutes to be able to dive into some aspects of this discipline for a lifetime, and obviously we can't grab it all. Even over 2 days we can't. I thought in my time today, though, I would focus my remarks on two parts of leadership, two aspects. One, I want to offer you a piece of data. Sorry, but as that video describes, I'm kind of a data head. So I want to show you some data on basically what do the best team leaders get done. What's the data tell us about what the best team leaders actually get done? And then second, I want to share with you a tool, tease apart that tool on how to pinpoint what your particular strengths are as a leader. So one piece of data on what the outcomes of a leader are, the outputs of a leader, and one tool to help you know what your inputs might be as a leader. All right? Is that okay? One piece of data on outputs, one piece of data on inputs. Is that good? Yeah. Awesome. All right, here's the data. I'm in the fortunate position of going into company after company after company all the time and measuring performance company after company. And when you do this again and again and again, you always find the same thing, which I don't read in the business press very much at all, but you always find this. You find range in performance, not between two companies. You find range in performance between two teams in the same company doing exactly the same kind of work. Huge range. Let me give you one example. This is actually a retailer. You'd all know who they are. I am not going to tell you their name. They have 8,000 stores here in the US, and they're one of the most respected retailers. One could argue they're one of the most respected companies in the world. And when you go into this company, one of their theories as a retailer, it's radical, is that the more affluent the community where we put the store, the more money that store should make. It's not radical. It's called siting. Where you put the store, site the store, is kind of important. And when you plot out all the stores themselves on a graph, you get something that looks a little like this. Can I have those slides up so I can show that graph? Here's the graph. Local economic potential on the X. You've got profit up the Y. You plot them all out, all 8,000 of them, and you get this beautiful red line going from bottom left to top right. So if you were the CEO, the head leader, if you will, of this company, you look at that line and you go, good, theory's true. More affluent the community, the more money the store makes. We should probably put the stores on the right-hand edge of that graph. But then you plot out the stores themselves, guys. You plot out the actual stores themselves, and you get this. You get the Milky Way. You've got a store down here at the bottom that's making, frankly, an awful lot less money than you would have thought it would make, given where you put it. And then let your eye go north. Not east-west. Let your eye go north. Just go up, and you'll see there's a store like this one right here that has almost exactly the same economic potential as the one at the bottom. It's just making a lot more money. Now, I don't know what wakes you up at night, but one of the things that wakes me up at night is wondering what the heck is going on in the blue dot at the top that isn't going on in the blue dot at the bottom. I don't have a particularly interesting life, but I think that's a meaningfully interesting question, isn't it? Why do two teams in the same company, by the way, these people are paid in the same way, trained in the same way, selling the same products, the same kinds of customers. This company has one stock price. It's a pretty good stock price. Supposedly, it has one culture. And oh, by the way, what a lovely story that makes. One culture leads to one stock price. That just makes a good narrative. It's a fiction, guys. It's a fiction in every company. No one company has one culture. They have, if they're publicly traded, one stock price. But Google doesn't have one culture any more than Goldman Sachs has one culture. No company has one culture. You go inside a company that supposedly has one culture, and you find this. This company's got one of the most distinctive cultures in the world, but it doesn't have one culture. It has as many cultures as it does local work teams. What this shows us more clearly than ever before, I suppose, is that the strength of any particular company's culture is in the hands of the local leader. It's the local leader that makes the difference, right? Yes, there's something you can do from the center. For those of you who run big companies, you can do something from the center in terms of saying, this is what we value, or in terms of saying, this is what our strategy is, or in terms of saying, this is where we'll allocate our resources. You can do that, and that's great. But how those messages get communicated, how they actually get turned into the day-to-day reality of what it's like to go work in this place, that is hugely mediated by the behavior, the challenges, the performance of the local leader.
There's no such thing as a great company. There's such a thing as a great stock price, but there's no such thing as a great company. All you can say about a great company or a great organization is it's a deliberate accumulation of lots and lots and lots of blue dots above the red line. So if you want to grow as a leader, and I imagine you're here because you want to grow as a leader, then you better have a theory. I don't mean a grand theory of leadership. I mean you better have a theory of why two teams in the same company have such differential levels of performance, when so much of it is due to the person who's running that blue dot at the top. And for those of you not following along, the blue dots are actually stores. They're not dots. I mean, they are dots. But you've got 100 people working there, and I'm sure you've had an experience like that, haven't you? You've worked in that blue dot at the bottom. You've worked in a team where you did not feel engaged, you did not feel at your best, you did not feel inspired, you didn't. And then something happened. It might have happened slowly, or it might have happened, sometimes it happens quite quickly, doesn't it? A new client, a new project, a new colleague, a new leader, and suddenly you wake up and you're in that blue dot at the top. You're on fire. You're at your very best, and your business card reads exactly the same. So you've had this experience. You've had an experience where you were disengaged, and then you've had one where you're at the summit of your own experience, but you didn't change companies. Something happened locally. In a sense, what we have to say from these data is that all company cultures are local, guys. They're all local. At least all the really important parts are local. While I was at Gallup, what we did is we asked people in the teams at the top a whole bunch of employee survey questions, and then we asked the people in the bottom the same questions. Millions of them, because we had the wherewithal to do that. And then we ditched all the questions where the people in the best teams and the people in the least productive teams, where everyone strongly agreed. We just ditched them, even if we loved the questions. Oh, it's a question on vision or values or recognition or growth. Or even if we loved the question, if it didn't seem to show any relationship between high performing and low performing, we ditched it. Turns out 3 questions. 3 questions explain a little north of 90% of the variation of every other question. So if you want to ask a 100-question employee survey, you can. It's just that you don't need to ask 97 of them. Here are 3. The 3 most powerful questions, which if you think about it, do a pretty darn good job of capturing what do the best leaders get done. Now, we could dive into every one of them in great depth. I'll just give you a flavor because they give you a sense, I think, of what a leader should focus on. Here are the 3, in ascending order. So when somebody says to you, what does the person in the blue dot at the top actually get done? These 3 questions capture pretty much all of it. And they're not necessarily what you would expect. Maybe they will be. I don't know what's going on in your head right now. The third most powerful one is this one. Are my colleagues committed to quality work? Are my colleagues committed to quality? Gosh, that small word quality is huge, isn't it, in leadership? What do the best leaders do? They bring excellence to life. On the best team, somehow the best leader has helped people to know, here, excellence is this. And they bring it to life through heroes and stories and rituals and the expressed values they shove on the walls. They vivify quality. What is it? Let's bring it to life. You think about one of the most quintessential leaders of the last 20 years, you'd have to say Steve Jobs is up there. And I know we use him for probably too many examples, but in this case, I think he fits. He was brilliant at bringing this to life for the folks at Apple, wasn't he? For Steve Jobs, quality was one word. Quality's beauty. Quality's beauty. Quality's beauty. What beauty it all coheres. This whole product is so beautiful and integrated. And even yet today, even though he's passed on, he still leaves that legacy of quality's beauty. That's why the hero right now of Apple isn't Tim Cook, it's Johnny Ive, the head designer. That's why he's in all the commercials. It's, oh, look how beautiful this is. And even yet today, you walk the hallways and say to the Apple employee, in every department of Apple, you say, who are you trying to serve? They all say the same thing, which you may have heard. First time I heard this phrase, I didn't know what they were talking about. But they say, we're all designed to serve people who are geeked out by lickable technology. And you hear that. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, I misunderstood. They're trying to say likable technology. But you dive in and you go, no, we're geeked out here to serve people who are so entranced by the fact that this software is integrated perfectly with this hardware and the bezel is only just this thick and it's so shiny that there are moments when you just want to reach out and just lick it. And there are some of you in the room right now who have no idea what I'm talking about. And there's others of you that have done it, haven't you? setting a stoplight. You're just like, I'm just going to give it a quick lick because it's so beautiful. If you're not geeked out by that, don't go work for Apple, don't go shop up. If you're geeked out by that, imagine how radical, now of course we're like, yeah, duh, I mean Apple, quality, beauty, duh. But imagine how radical that was as the moment when they first said, you know what, we are set up just to serve people that are geeked out by how precious and beautiful that all is. In fact, what we'll do is we'll take the department in every consumer electronics store that they shove over to the back of the store, or maybe they even outsource it. We'll take that department, the customer help desk, and we'll put it right in the center of the store, and we'll put these really special people behind it that we'll call them geniuses. We'll call them geniuses, and what we'll say to the customers is, hey, look, if you're super lucky, I mean, if you're really lucky, and you make a reservation, then you might have the chance to come into our store and talk to someone who's even more geeked out by lickable technology than you are about why the stuff you bought from us doesn't work anymore. That's how rabid we are about quality is beauty. Now, of course, we look at it, we go, yeah, genius, Bob, of course you have to. No, it was a radical claim about what quality is, and he brought it to life in so many ways. Of course, the point here is not that he has the right answer. That's not the right answer. Quality is beauty. That's not what leaders should say. His answer is the right answer for him and his team. But you walk even, I don't know, a couple of miles down the street, and you walk into Facebook's headquarters. They don't have one word for quality. They have 3 words for quality. At Facebook, whatever you think of the service, I mean, they've built a big organization with a really distinct environment. And their definition of quality is 3 words: speed to impact, speed to impact. The promise that Facebook makes to all of the people coming on board is, look, you join on Thursday, you write code on Friday, we'll ship it over the weekend, and 1 billion people will feel it on Monday. If you're geeked out by that, come work here. That's why all over the walls you see stuff saying, done is better than perfect. Can you imagine that at Apple? Be like, no, perfect is perfect. It isn't done until it's perfect. But at Facebook, it's done is better than perfect. There are other posters saying, move fast, break things. You walk into their offices, and gosh, it's a physical manifestation of speed. There's wires. You walk into the Apple headquarters, and it's the whole thing is, have you been there? Anyone been there? It's beautiful. Like, you don't want to touch anything. It's just like this huge version of an iPad. It's just a building, a series of buildings that are all shiny. You kind of want to lick the walls. I mean, it's that beautiful. You walk into Facebook, and it's like they moved in yesterday. There's concrete everywhere. There's wires hanging down. There's keyboards all over the place here, and then all over. And you walk into the offices, and the offices are, now they have some offices. It's all open plan, but there are some offices for meetings and so on, and they've got glass doors. And on the glass doors, there's a logo which says Sun Microsystems. And you're like, oh, I came into the wrong building. Oh, then you think, oh, maybe it's art. Maybe it's like an Andy Warhol version of modern art on the walls or something. And they're like, no, it's just those were the doors in the building, because we bought the Sun Microsystems building and we left the doors up. And I'm like, well, you know you can take them down, right? You know you can take them off and like get new doors. Yeah, but we wanted to tell everyone that, you know what, in our business, things move really fast. Things move so fast. A huge company that's at the peak of the hill last year, could be gone, like Sun Microsystems, gone in a heartbeat. We want everybody to see that this is a really fast-moving industry, and you better move fast. And if your platform isn't burning, set it on fire right now, otherwise you'll go the way of Sun Microsystems. Okay, that is a beautiful, clear, vivid way of saying, when you come to work here, quality speed. Quality speed. So my point, of course, isn't that there's one right definition to quality. The point is that I need to join, if I'm on a great team, I've joined a team where the team leader is going, hey, quality's this. There's 1 million dashboards. We can measure anything. But quality's this. If your people can't answer strongly agree to that question, you're not going to build a blue dot at the top. What are you doing? What are your rituals? What are your expressed values? What does the physical layout of your offices tell me as a new team member about what quality is in your place of work? Who are your heroes? What stories are you telling? Pull those levers deliberately, otherwise you'll just be pulling them accidentally. So that's question number 3. Question number 2, second most powerful question. This is obvious. Do I know what's expected of me at work? Apparently we like that. Apparently we like to know what's expected of us. I won't say a lot on this one, except to say that it's weird that although this is a crashing glimpse of the obvious for any good leader in the room, the way that we choose to manage it at work is completely out of cadence with the way that it's felt as a team member. As you know, as a team member, many of you are leaders and team members, you know that the goals that were set for you or that you set with your leader at the beginning of Q1 were irrelevant by the third week of Q1, weren't they? I mean, things move really fast. You can sit down and noodle on your goals for 2014, but come the third week of 2014, things have changed, things have adjusted, and you are tweaking and adjusting and course correcting and coaching in real time. You're just adjusting all the time. And yet what we do with performance management, who's got a performance management or a performance appraisal system where we set the goals at Q1, we maybe check in with them 6 months later, and then maybe we come back at the end of the year and you get a rating. Okay, if I was to make one prediction today, it would be that all of the existing performance appraisal systems that most of us currently use, set goals at the beginning of the year, come back at the end of the year, fast forward 2 years, they're all gone. They're all gone. They're too infrequent. They're too retrospective. They're too out of sequence with what the best team leaders actually do in regards to expectations. If I was to say what's the one ritual that separates the best team leaders from the rest, it's this. Check in with each of your people once a week on 2 questions. What are you doing? How can I help you? What are you doing? How can I help? What are you doing? How can I help? What are you doing? How can I help? Times that by 52 and you get leadership. I mean, I'm sorry, that's so obvious, isn't it? It's so banal. We forget it. We do team meetings. Okay, once a week, team huddle. Okay, yes, that's good. But really what I want as an individual, I want you to check in with me and say, what are you working on this week and how can I help? And I want you to do that every week because it changes every week. Even on jobs that are supposedly the same thing time after time, there's small but important changes in focus or attention or emphasis. I want you to check in with me every darn week so that in fact performance and focus around expectations is much more like Twitter than it is like these once-a-year performance appraisals. Here's the point for us that we can learn from leaders. Expectations happen in real time. Don't try to manage them in a way that's batched. And right now we do. And if you're not into that, if you don't want to check in with your people every week because it feels like too much, then that's fine, don't worry. Don't lead. That's leading. That's not in addition to leading. That's leading. That's all it is. Who are you? What are you focused on? How can I help? That's leading. At least according to those being led. Here's the number one most powerful question, though, which, by the way, explains 82% of the variance of the other 2. So if you just had one question, and you said, here's the what one question would you use to try and figure out who's building a blue dot at the top versus one at the bottom? What's the one most defining characteristic of great teams? It's this one, guys. At work, do I have a chance to do what I do best every day? At work, do I have a chance to do what I do best every day? It turns out that although we all should be cultivating servant leadership in ourselves and others, it turns out that that begins with you understanding who you are as a servant. I'm most interested in myself, not because I'm selfish, but because if I'm going to make a contribution, it has to be from an understanding of where I'm at my best. Somehow on the best teams, somehow the best team leaders have cut through all the clutter and said, where are you at your best? Where are you at your best? How can I put you in a role where you're at your best? And you, on the receiving end of that, you feel like, gosh, he's interested in where I've got some kind of comparative advantage. And although not every part of my job fits into that, the everyday part's kind of important. I would say more than kind of, because if you take the word everyday out of that question, because you go, oh, who can do that every day? If I play to my best once a month, it's a good month. Because if you think that's real or that's reality, maybe, but if you take the word everyday out of that question, who strongly agrees and who doesn't seems to show no relationship to business outcomes of the team. So the everyday feeling of, gosh, I'm sort of in a role that gets the best of me every day, not all day, every day, but every day. The everydayness is a really important part of what it takes to build a great team. Now, it's not easy to do that. If you're a team leader or a team member, it's not always that you've got that kind of close relationship with your team leader. Where human beings are complicated, and we don't sometimes get along with one another. You look at your team leader and you go, you deplete me. You do. I walk in strong with my strengths, and you shrink me. You're a shrinker. That's what you do. You're a shrinker. I wish you'd stop doing that, but you don't. So it's not easy to get people to strongly agree to that first question. But if you want to think about what is the essence of leadership, it begins with curiosity. Leadership's curiosity, as in, who the heck are you? And who the heck are you? And how can I help you leverage your best? So, putting all this together, what do the best leaders get done? Know me for what I do best, focus me around what I do best, surround me with like-valued people, and I'll win. Know me for what I do best, focus me around what I do best, surround me with people who define quality the way I do, and we will build a winning team together. Now, you're going to hear a lot more subtleties and aspects of leadership over the next few days. But if you wanted to come back to the data and you get confused because you're so busy and you're running so fast and you're thinking, what does it take to lead? Flip your head around, get your head in the mind of the people being led, and remember those three most basic needs. Know me for what I do best. Please focus me every week around that, and then surround me, somehow bring to life for me the fact that we're surrounded by people who share my values. That's leadership. In sports, in music, in business, in non-for-profit, whatever your focus is, that's the essence of leadership. Now, there's more, but that's the essence from the perspective of those being led. Is that okay? Which suggests that at the extremes of excellence, leadership is unique. At the mediocrity level, all leaders look the same. At the extreme, all leaders look idiosyncratic. In fact, you could probably say that's true of anything. At the extremes of excellence, excellence is unique. You start peeling the onion and calling these people on the phone and going, how do you lead? Because you're not an equalizer connector. You're a stimulator or you're a provider. Their stories are so vivid, but really distinct to one another. Just by way of closing, let me show you just a couple of these, because it just blows our mind. But when you think about generalizing about a role, and then you dive into the role and you find there's someone doing it really well that doesn't fit the quote-unquote profile. We interviewed somebody called Diana Bernardo. She was a stimulator, one of the very best stimulators. So you pick up the phone with her and you go, hey, yo, Diana, how'd you do what you do? What's your trick? You're one of the very best out of 15,000. You're one of the top, the extreme, excellent deliverers of a fantastic guest experience. What do you do? She goes, I got a mascot. I'm like, what? No, I've got to have a mascot. Everyone should have a mascot. Every hotel should have every team should have a mascot. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. What's yours? Mine's the Turtles. We're the Ephrata, Pennsylvania Turtles. And you're like, all right, Mike, why? Because you don't make any progress as a turtle unless you stick your neck out. And that's us as a team. Always sticking our neck out. You should see my office, Marcus. It's full of plush turtles. If you're the employee of the month, you're not the employee of the month. Can you guess what you are, Marcus? I'm like, turtle of the, yes, turtle of the month. Marcus, you get a plush turtle, take it home to your kids. Pictures of turtles everywhere. Turtles. Every single hotel should have a mascot. And you go, okay. Couldn't start her up. She had just idea after idea after idea. Eventually hung up the phone, picked it up, and called Tim. Tim runs the hotel in Times Square. When he took standout, his lead strength role was teacher, and he's quiet. He's self-effacing. You ask him, hey, Tim, how'd you do it? What's your trick? What's your technique? He goes, I don't have anything. It's all my people. My people do all the great work. Which, as a researcher, is just really annoying to hear. So you're like, come on, give me a... But he's like, no, it's not me, I don't... And eventually, after a lot of pushing and pushing, he goes, well, I do have the lending library. I'm like, oh, what's that? He goes, well, I figured if I'm really telling my people that their judgment, their relationships are what matters, then I should say once a week, as a symbol of what's between your ears, bring in a book. Any book, I don't care. Bring in a book and share it with one another. Because that's a symbol of the fact that you're sharing each other's minds, each other's judgment. Share the lending library. And you go, oh, that's a great idea. But imagine if I'd said, but how about also having a mascot? Hey, Tim, what's your mascot? You're the, what are you, the New York Times? Oh, bookworms. Excellent. You're the bookworms? Oh, I went back to Frankenleader again. I hung up the phone and I called a woman called Melanie Aiken. Melanie was a provider, which very few providers, I mean, not very few, but much less prevalent than equalizers. She was a provider, North Carolina she was from. And after, again, much probing and pushing, she goes, well, one of our techniques is one of my leadership tricks is the paycheck lunch. I'm like, oh, what's that? She goes, well, we spend so much time at the hotel, I figured, why not twice a month? We get together in a lunch, and you've got to turn to the person next to you, and you've just got to say one thing you're grateful for. And if you can't think of anything you're grateful for, then pay attention the next couple of weeks, because you might be sitting next to that person again. And then at the end of the lunch, I walk around with the paycheck, and I hand out the paycheck as this physical manifestation of our gratefulness to you. And you hear that, and you go, oh, that's great. and then you hang up the phone and you call Steve. Steve's an equalizer. He runs the hotel at Toronto Airport. And Steve is an equalizer, and he goes, my trick, my technique that really works for me is the law of 3 and 2. I follow the law of 3 and 2 religiously. If every single hotel GM could follow the law of 3 and 2, then we'd win. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. What is it? He goes, aha. Well, you check your guest satisfaction scores 3 times a day, and whatever you hear, good or bad, you get back to that guest within 2 hours. Check the guest sat scores 3 times a day, get back to the guest within 2 hours. That is the law of 3 and 2, and if every hotel GM could follow that law, we'd win. And you go, okay. I mean, that's obviously what helped you win. But imagine if I said to him again, maybe you could try the paycheck lunch. I don't want to be a cynic, but I think out of Steve's mouth, the paycheck lunch would sound rather different, don't you? I think out of his mouth, it would sound like this. Either you show up to the lunch or you don't get the paycheck. That's the paycheck lunch in Steve's hotel. So the point here, guys, is, of course, when it comes to leadership, remember, at excellence, there is no perfect profile for a leader. Yes, there are perfect outcomes. I shared 3 of them. But how you get to those outcomes will vary according to each of you. There's no perfect profile. There are only perfect practices that fit your profile. So if you want to figure out what your particular profile is, then yes, I would encourage you, whether it's through self-reflection or through taking something like Standout, figure out what is your greatest value that you as a leader bring to the team. What are your top 2? And if it turns out your top 2 are pioneer influencer, that's not right, that's not good. Those aren't the 2 leadership ones. There's nothing necessarily good about any top 2 combination. When you take something like this, the point for you is not to try to discover what is unique about you. No, the point, as ever, from a servant leadership standpoint, the point is to figure out how to take what is unique about you and make it useful. And I hope in my short time today with you, I've been able to give you one piece of data, and in this case, one tool to help you step up and meet that challenge. Thank you very much.